exciting session, Management in Diverse Workplace. This is the first chapter for my technical BS students. This chapter covers 5 broad areas: concept of management and functions of the management, different roles of managers, diversity in workplace and changing workplace environment, glass ceiling, entrepreneurship. I am Syed Riaz, lecturer in management, serving various colleges and universities from the last 30 years. Management is around us. Management principles are used not only in the corporate world, it is equally important in small and medium business, non-profit organizations such as schools, colleges, universities, and also for startup entrepreneurial firms. Most of the failures in business was attributed to ignoring management principles, which we are going to learn in the following chapters. Before going to the first chapter, let us discuss why management is of paramount importance in our business and personal life with reference to 4 best managers of the world. Number 1, Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors. She joined the company at the age of 18 and was associated with company during its good as well as bad time. When General Motors had to bail out, she believes in esprit de corps. Her famous quote, "If we win the hearts and minds of the employees, we are going to have better business success." This you are going to learn in chapter 11, Human Resource Management. She is also well known for her successful business strategies, and this you are going to learn in chapter number 7, Planning and Strategic Management. Mark Benioff, founder, chairman and CEO of Salesforce, ranks number 2 as best manager of the world. His golden quote, "You must always be able to predict what next, then have the flexibility to evolve." It speaks volumes about planning and strategic management that you are going to learn in chapter number 7, and operation controls, which you are going to learn in chapter number 20, controlling. Jeff Bezos, everybody knows about Jeff Bezos. He is the founder, chairman of CEO of Amazon, a global conglomerate, ranks number 3 as best manager of the world. His famous quote, "A brand for a company is like a reputation of a person. You earn reputation by trying to do hard things well." To do hard things well internationally, one has to digest a plethora of business legislation of many countries. This you are going to learn in chapter number 5, that is ethical and social responsibilities of managers. Mr. Warren Buffett, a business tycoon and philanthropist, ranked number 4 as the best manager of the world. His famous quote, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and just 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you will do things differently." Buffett himself is an institution of management. His success is attributed to effective communication, strategic management, tactical planning, organizing, staffing, controlling, business ethics, motivation, and leadership skills. You are going to learn about this in chapter number 3, chapter number 5, chapter number 7, chapter number 8, chapter number 13, chapter number 14, and chapter number 17 of this course. Learning objectives. Now let's move to the learning objectives, what we are going to learn. After studying this chapter, you will be able to learn, define management, describe the levels of management, discuss the functions of the management, explain the role of managers, describe the skills required to perform the functions of the management, explain how principles of management are developed, discuss the increasing role of women and minorities, define the glass ceiling facing women and minorities, explain diversity, define entrepreneurs, define small business, outline 3 requirements for encouraging entrepreneurships in medium and large businesses. Management and its importance. Management is the process of deciding the best way to use organization's resources to produce goods and services. Every organizations are managing certain amount of resources. Resources includes employees, equipment and money. Men, material, machine and money. These are the resources you will find in most of the organizations. How smartly a manager is using employees, equipments, money and material, that is the job of the managers. The umbrella of management encompasses sound decisions, that is decision making skills, good communication skills, training and motivating people, leadership skills. Levels of business management. Basically, there are 3 levels of business management. Universally, in the book, we are discussing about 3 levels of managers, whereas Toyota used to have 5 levels of managers. General Motors used to have something like 15 levels of managers. But for the sake of study, just we are focusing on just 3 levels of managers. Those levels are senior managers, mid-level managers and supervisory managers. Senior managers, what they do, they are responsible for setting goals for the business, deciding what actions are necessary to meet them and determining how best to use these resources. The top level managers, they are focusing on strategic management and they are the people deciding how to use the resources. Whereas the middle level managers responsible for achieving the goals set by senior managers. For example, the senior managers, the top level managers, they used to do strategic management and they have decided this year we have to employ 5,000 people. Then the mid-level managers, mostly the functional managers, marketing manager, finance manager, okay, human resource manager, they will be focusing on the goal of the top level managers. So they will start hiring 5,000 employees because the senior managers, they have decided it, because they used to set the goals for the company. Whereas the third level supervisory managers, sometimes we call them as first line managers, they are responsible for the people who are physically produce the company's products and services. Sometimes we call them as floor level managers. Team managers also comes under supervisory managers. This diagram shows you what are the different types of managers, 3 levels of managers, and what we call them. Senior management, mostly they are chairpersons, are board of directors, chief executive officers, chief operating officer, senior vice president. Whereas mid-level managers, you can categorize them as department heads like marketing manager, finance manager, human resource manager, functional heads, sales managers. Supervisory management, they are called as supervisors. Sometimes in some companies they are called as foreman, crew leaders, store managers. These are the 3 levels of management. Management tasks. What are the tasks management used to do? Basically, there are 5 different tasks of the manager, that is planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling. Let us discuss one by one. Planning. Planning is the most important part of the managers. It is deciding what objectives to pursue and what to do to achieve those objectives. In planning, we used to decide what objectives to follow and how to make them practical. Then comes another important task, organizing. Organizing, it is grouping activities, assigning activities and providing authority necessary to carry out activities. Organizing means, for example, a company is having so many activities, they used to categorize different activities into different departments. Marketing and sales activities will be differentiated and that will be assigned to marketing managers. Finance and accounting activities will be assigned to finance managers. Human resource activities such as recruitment, selection, training and development, so on and so forth, that will be given to the human resource management. That is what we call organizing. Staffing. Determining how human resource needs and recruiting, selecting, training, hence the developing of human resource. Staffing includes from hiring to firing all the processes. It starts from human resource planning, recruitment, selection, training and development, attrition, promotions, demotions, terminations. Again, it will go back to what you call human resource planning. It is a cycle. Staffing. Leading. All managers need to be a good leaders. Leading is nothing but directing and channelizing employees' human behavior towards accomplishment of objectives. So every organization used to have certain objectives, goals, objectives. Then the lower level managers, department level managers, they used to have certain objectives. Those objectives should be achieved. How we will achieve those objectives? The manager used to be a good leader. He has to give training. He has to channel the behavior of the employees to achieve the task that is given to the department. Finally, the last task, that is about controlling. Controlling, it is about measuring performance against objectives. For example, a company has decided to achieve an objectives. This month we need to achieve a target of 1 million real or $1 million sales. That is decided in planning. Controlling, they have to see whether every week they are achieving quarter million sales or not. That is measuring performance against objectives. That is controlling. Determining the courses of deviations and taking corrective actions wherever necessary. Sometimes we used to call it as a planning and accountability. Planning and accountability is directly related to controlling. When we plan it, then we are accountable. The managers are accountable. They have to check whether everything is going according to plan and whether the things are deviating. If something is deviating, that deviation is decided by the top managers. They can have deviation 5% or 10%. If there is a deviation of something like 50%, it is questionable. That is controlling. Relative emphasis placed on the management functions. As we discussed, all managers, whether it is first line manager, middle managers or the supervisory managers, they used to do 5 different types of functions: planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling. Every manager is involved in all these 5 types of functions. If you focus on this diagram, you will see this. Top managers, they spend more time in planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling. Top managers, these are the people who are deciding the strategic planning for the company. The face of the company is decided by the top level managers. What to do, what not to do. In business, that will be decided by the top level managers. That is why the top level, if you focus on this diagram, you will find top level managers, they are focusing more on planning. They are doing organizing also, because they have to organize into different departments. They do staffing also. Staffing is nothing but hiring and firing. They used to recruit the mid-level managers. They used to promote the mid-level managers. They used to do performance appraisal of mid-level managers. They are leading also. They have to instruct and train the mid-level managers. That is leading. Controlling, whether they are achieving the objectives, achieving the results as per the objectives. That is controlling. Whereas mid-level managers are also involved in all these 5 types of functions: planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling. When it comes to planning, they have less planning. They involved in less planning. But organizing, they also do organizing. They have to divide the work and assign to specific team leaders. Staffing also they do. They used to hire the people confined to their department. They do leading also. Leading is nothing but coaching, training, performance appraisal, directing the employees to do certain tasks. Controlling also. When you go down, the controlling is wider for the supervisory level managers. Supervisory level managers, they have less planning. Less planning means what here? Top level managers, they do strategic planning as well as they do business plan for 5 years, 10 years, sometimes 20 years also. Mid level managers, they focus on the tactical planning, whereas supervisory managers, they focus only on day-to-day planning. That's why if you see in the diagram, their time, they used to spend lesser time in planning because they are focusing on day-to-day activities, weekly scheduling, monthly scheduling, so on and so forth. They do organizing also because under the supervisors or foreman, they used to have something like 10 people and they have to divide the work and assign the work to so many people. That is organizing. Staffing also they do. They also authorize in some of the companies, these supervisors are also authorized to recruit the people belong to their department. Leading also they do it. They give some instructions. They used to mentor it. That is mentoring is also leading. Coaching is also leading, as well as giving some training in the specific department, that is also leading. Controlling, they involved more time in controlling. That means what here? If you see controlling from the top to bottom, top managers, they have less controlling. Why less controlling? Think for an example, president of the company. President of the company, he has to control 3 vice president. He has to control only 3 people, whether 3 people are coming and doing their job properly or not. When coming to the vice president, each vice president used to have something like 5 department managers. So the controlling for the vice president is little bit wider. Then the department managers, maybe he is having 5 supervisors. The controlling is, span of management is wider. When it comes to the supervisory level managers, they have bottom level employees, bottom of the pyramid in their organizations, floor level employees. These supervisors, they have to control 10, 20, 30 people depending on the business. So this speaks about the relative emphasis placed on management functions. Different roles of managers. What are the different roles of managers? Managers used to play various roles. Number 1, figurehead role of the managers. What is this figurehead role? Managers perform the duties of a ceremonial, symbolic in nature, such as welcoming official visitors, signing legal document, etc. as head of the organization, strategic business unit or department. Figurehead. For manager, for his department, he is like a prince. If some ceremony is conducted in his area, he will be the person officially, he is welcoming the outside visitors to show his department. This is figurehead. He is the main attraction for that particular unit or department, figurehead. So for whatever happening in that particular department, the department manager is responsible. Duties of interpersonal roles include routine involving little serious communication and less important decisions. However, they are important for the smooth functioning of an organization or department. This is what we call figurehead role of the managers. Another role, leadership role of managers. All managers are leaders. Some managers are positive leaders, some managers are negative leaders, some managers are having what you call laissez-faire leadership style, some managers used to have democratic leadership. So all managers are leaders. That is why another important role of the manager is leadership role. All managers have a leadership role. The manager is in charge of the organization or department, unit or section of the work of others and leads his subordinates. He is the leader for a particular department or section. This role includes hiring, training, motivating, disciplining the employees, focusing on their schedules, formal authority and functional authority. They used to have formal authority as well as functional authority. This comes under the leadership role. It provides greater potential power to exercise and get things done. That is leadership role. Number 3, liaison role of manager. As the leader of the organization or unit, the manager has to perform the function of motivation, communication, encouraging team spirit and the like. Further, he has to coordinate the activities of all the subordinates, which involves the activity of licensing. So he has to license inside the department as well as outside the department. This role also requires the manager to interact with other managers outside the organization to secure favorable information. In this role, the manager represents his organization in all matters of formality. That is what we call licensing role. Monitor role of the managers. Manager is also called as a monitor. He used to have checks and balances of the employees. As a result of the network of contact, the manager gets the information by scanning his environment, subordinates, peers, and superiors. They used to monitor the activities of all the department, section, or unit. The manager seeks and receives information concerning internal and external events so as to gain understanding of the organization and its environment. Typically, this is done through reading magazines and taking with others to learn the changes in the public tastes, what competitors may be planning, and the like. So he is monitoring not only inside the organization, and he need to know ins and outs of the organization as well as the outside environment of the organization. That is what we call monitor role of the managers. Disseminator role of the manager. Another role of the manager is disseminator. What is this disseminator? Manager disseminates the information. He collects the information and he gives the information to his subordinates. That is, he collects from different sources and through various means he passes some of the privileged information directly to his subordinates, peers, and supervisors who otherwise have no access to it. This information is gathered by him from the environment or from the top managers or from the middle managers, and this forms his own equal in the organization. This is about what we call the disseminator role. Spokesman's role of the manager. A manager is the spokesperson of his department, of his unit, of his company as such. Managers also perform a spokesperson role when they represent the organization outside. For example, we discuss about the top 4 managers of the General Motors. Take for example, General Motor managers, CEO, if he speaks in the public domain, something, for example, new model of car is coming, if he is announcing, he is a spokesperson, he is speaking on behalf of the company. Likewise, every manager is a spokesperson for his own department, units, or sections. And whatever he speaks about his department, sections, and company, that becomes official. That is the role of spokesman. Manager is required to speak on behalf of the organization and transmit information on organization's plans, policies, and actions. The manager has to keep his superior informed of everyday development in his unit. He needs to have transparency in the information. That transparency is done by the act of a spokesperson. So, directors and shareholders must be informed about the financial performance. Customers must be informed about the new products and development. Quality maintenance, government officials about implementation of law, so on and so forth. That is spokesperson's or spokesman's role of a manager. Managers also have another important role. We call it as a entrepreneurship role of managers. As an entrepreneur, the manager is the creator and innovator. Manager need to create something new. Manager has to create or innovate something new in his own department, section, or in the company itself. Otherwise, he will be out of the market. He initiates and oversees new products and services that will improve their organization's performance. In service organizations also, all the department managers, section heads, they have to show some innovation in the procedure. That is entrepreneurship spirit they need to have. He seeks to improve his department, adapt to the changing environment and factors. The manager would like to have new ideas, initiate new projects, and initiate the developmental projects. That is why what's happening, if you find new manager, okay, if you find new manager in your department, the first thing in the first meeting, what he used to tell to his subordinates, please give me some projects, give me some idea, give me some innovative idea, because he want to show to his manager what is new he has done as a manager. Creativity, innovation, something new in the procedure. That is what we call as entrepreneurship role of the manager. Another important role of the manager is that disturbance handler role of the manager. As a disturbance handler, manager take corrective actions to respond to previously unforeseen problems. If there is a problem between two employees, two departments, the manager has to solve this disturbance. Disturbance handler role presents the manager as the involuntarily responding to pressure. Pressure of the situation are severe and highly demand the attention of the manager, and as such the manager controls or ignores the situation. Disturbance handlers. Look here, if you go to sometimes banks, maybe there is a problem with the customers and the cashier, or maybe there is a problem with the customer with the ATM machine. The manager who is sitting in his cabin, he used to see what is happening in and around the bank through CCTV. Then he will go to the customer and cashier, he will solve that disturbance. Maybe the machine is not working, he will tell his officer, go to the ATM machine, check what is happening in the ATM machine, please solve the problem of the customers there. So he is handling disturbance within the employees also, with the customers also, within his department also. Sometimes he is asked to solve the disturbance with other departments. For example, workers strike. Strike is very common in most of the democratic countries. So human resource managers always they have to solve this strike problem. Declining sales. If the sales are declining, this is a disturbance in the sales department. How to improve the sales? What is happening? For example, bankruptcy. The company is about to get bankrupt. The managers is in the hot soup. They have to solve this disturbance. These are the major customers, etc. The manager should have enough time in handling disturbance carefully, skillfully, and selectively. Another role of the manager, resource allocator role. As we discussed in the definition, what managers do? The managers used to manage resources, man, material, machine, money as such. So manager is the resource allocator. For example, there are 50 employees. 5 of the employees, they don't have computer. He will provide, his job is to provide computer to the 5 employees who don't have computer. Resource allocator. Resources may be about material, men also. For example, one of the section is having only 3 employees, but the supervisor is demanding 2 more. It is the job of the supervisor's manager to allocate him 2 more employees or at least 1 more employee so that he can do his job properly. That is allocating resources. The most important resource that a manager allocates to his subordinate is his time also. As a resource allocator, managers are responsible for allocating human resource, physical and monetary resources, accordingly setting up a time schedule for the completion of an operation or approval of expenditure on a particular project. This is also resource. To implement the projects and to get the project in line, he need to allocate sufficient fund for the project, otherwise the project may fail. He is the person, he need to allocate the resource, and these are the functions which the managers perform in the role as a resource allocator. The manager should have an open door policy and allow the subordinate to express their opinion and share their experience. Most of the managers, they are not providing resources. If they are not providing resources to their employees, how they can achieve the objective of the department, objectives of the company? That's why managers need to have open door policy. They need to welcome if somebody is asking something. Even though if he is not providing, he has to answer in such a way by motivating him. Maybe I am not providing you computer this month. Maybe next month I am assuring you, you will get your resources. Resources may be equipment, maybe men, maybe material, maybe money. So the manager should have an open door policy and allow the subordinates to express their opinion and share their experience. This process helps both the manager and his subordinate in making effective decisions. In addition, the manager should empower his subordinates by delegating his authority and power. This is the last role. Number 10, negotiator role of the manager. You know what do you mean by negotiator? Negotiating. So this is one of the most important role the manager has to play. In this role, the manager represents the organization in bargaining and negotiating with outsiders and insiders in the organization. He negotiates with the subordinates on improved commitment and loyalty, with the peace and cooperation, coordination and integration with workers and the unions regarding conditions of employment, commitment, productivity with the government about providing facilities for business expansion, so on and so forth. These negotiations are integral part of the manager's job, for only he has authority to commit organizational resources and has nerve center of the information. These are the 10 different roles of the managers we have. Now let us discuss about 3 important skills of the managers. Number 1, conceptual skills. Number 2, human relation skills. And number 3, technical skills. Conceptual skills, this helps managers understand how different parts of the organization relates to one another and to the business as a whole. For example, decision making skills needs conceptual skills. Decision making skills is a conceptual skills. Planning and organizing is a conceptual skills. Budgeting is a conceptual skills. Because here the managers need to know ins and outs of budgeting, ins and outs of the decision making, and ins and outs of the planning and strategic management. So they need to understand well what is strategic management, what is decision making, and what is budgeting. These are some of the examples about the conceptual skills. Another important skills every manager, whether he is a top level manager or mid level managers or supervisory managers, they need to have is human relation skills. This is needed by managers to understand and work well with people. Interviewing job applicants is a human relation skills. Interviewing people, we need to have human relation skills. Forming partnership with other organizations, we need human relation skills. Resolving conflict resolution needs human relation skills. Then another most important skills that manager needs to have is technical skills, specific abilities that people use to perform their job. Operating a machine is to know how the machine operates, how the computer operates, how the plant is operating. This we used to call it as a technical skills. Designing a brochure and training people in using a new budgeting system requires technical skills. Mix of skills used at different levels of management. All the 3 levels of managers, whether it is top level manager or mid level managers or maybe supervisory managers, they need to have all these 3 types of skills, conceptual skills, to understand in greater depth of anything. We call it as a conceptual skills, human relation skills, and technical skills. Top managers, they need to have more conceptual skills because they need to know about the new business. business plans, so on and so forth. Human relation skills also they need to know, they need to have, and technical skills also. Mid-level managers, they also need to have conceptual skills, human relation skills, and technical skills. Supervisory skills, supervisory managers, they need to have conceptual skills, human relation skills, as well as technical skills, because these managers, supervisory managers, they are working with the floor level employees. They need to have more technical skills. For example, a team leader in an IT industry, he is doing the project with the IT people. He need to have more technical skills. In case of manufacturing company, team leaders of the employees, bottom level employees, or you can say the team leaders or foreman, they need to have more technical skills, because they are the people really working at the ground level. Now let us discuss about management principles and scientific principles. As a technical student, you need to know about how management principles are developed and how scientific principles are developed. As far as scientific principles are concerned, a principle is a basic truth or law. The principle of gravity explains why an object falls to the ground. Scientists prove this principle by conducting repeated experiments in the lab, and the hypothesis is accepted as a principle or as a law. Whereas management principles, it is very difficult to create lab environment for management principles. Management principles are more of complicated than developing scientific principles. Carrying out controlled experiment in the business is rather difficult. It is difficult to carry out, control in a controlled environment. They have to study identical company. For example, if they want to adopt best practices in the what you call oil industry, they have to study, comparative study to be done with Aramco, with Shell, and with other major companies of the world. Then they have to come to the conclusion which company is making more quality oriented profit, so on and so forth. Then they will accept that as a principle. In case of automobile industry also, they have to study the identical company. They have to study about the General Motors, they have to study about the Toyota, they have to study about Nissan. Then they have to make a comparative study which company is producing best of the best product. Then they have to accept the best practices of that successful company as management principles. So management principles are developed through deduction method. Scientific principles used inductive method. They draw hypotheses from specific to general. From lab environment, they will apply to the general environment. Whereas management principles, that is deductive, management principles use deductive method. They draw conclusion from general to specific. Scientific principles are used in absolute and static manner. Wherever you go, the scientific principles throughout the globe are the same. Physical and scientific principles are more rigid and it will not change with time. Management principles changes. Different principles are used in different situations with creativity. Management principles are flexible. It changes with time and internal and external environment of the company. Scientific principle. Let us have some examples for scientific principles and management principles so that you can have, correct understanding about scientific principles and management principles. Example of scientific principles. Fourier's law of heat conduction deals with the transmission of heat in material. The law states that the heat flux Q the flow of heat per unit area and per unit of time is proportional to the gradients of the temperature difference. Fourier's law is used in many diverse areas of science, and it explains why diamonds are cool to touch. They have high thermal conductivity. The law remains same around the globe. If you use diamond, maybe in Asia, maybe in America, maybe in Latin America, wherever you use, you will find the quality of coolness in the diamond. The principle remains, the physical principle or scientific principles remains same throughout the globe. Management principles, if you want to motivate an employee, for example, you are a manager, you want to motivate employees, there are so many theories of motivation. You have to study so many theories of motivation. After studying theories of motivation, you can apply those theories of motivations. Some theories are suitable to some employees, some theories are not suitable to some employees. If you want to motivate an employee as per many theories, you need to motivate them appreciating with positive motivation. But there are some theories. One of the theory, we call it as a theory X and Y. It suggests how you have to motivate what you call the positive employees, how you have to motivate positive, how you have to motivate what you call the high performers, and how you have to motivate low performers. You have to use different methods for high performers and low performers. That is about theory X and Y. You will learn more about this theory in motivation chapter. Sometimes a manager cannot motivate all the employees with positive motivation. Sometimes he need to use negative motivation depending on the situation. Here, different theories are used in different situations. So, the management principles are not static. It is flexible. It is depending on the manager as well as the employees to be motivated. And again, it is differ. Motivation theories you can use in different situations, different industries in a different way. Now let us discuss about the changing work environment. This is one of the challenges all the managers they have to face. Changes in the information availability. Nowadays the information is available in abundance, and sometimes it is confusing to some of the managerial staff. Increasing sophistication of communication system and the rapid increase in the use of computers, new data and information are being provided at an accelerating rate. These changes require managers to have increased technical skills in communication. No doubt he is a technical graduate, he need to know more and more about modern communication, information technology, so on and so forth. Higher level of skills and training require new approach to motivation and leadership. Changing work environment, there are certain factors that can improve the quality of life. Safe and healthy working conditions. All the companies, they focus more and more on safe and healthy working conditions. Nowadays you will find this what you call the COVID-19. The more focus is given to the safety and health of the employees. That is the top priority. This is the work environment is changing throughout the globe. Opportunity to use and develop individual capabilities. Now, because of the changing in the work environment, there is a lot of opportunity to develop individual capabilities. Opportunity for personal and professional growth. Now you will find a lot of opportunities for personal and professional growth if you want to grow. This is the environment changing throughout the globe. Work schedules, career demand and travel time that do not regularly take up family and leisure time. Now what is happening? Because of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, there is a dramatic change in the work schedule, working from home. and sometimes some of the companies, they are allowing employees to take 3 months or 6 months leave without salary, so on and so forth. This is how the work environment is changing nowadays. This is a big challenge for the managers. Right to personal privacy, free speech, equitable treatment, and due process. Now, another big challenge in the work environment for the manager is that right to personal privacy, free speech, equitable treatment, and due process. That is, the employees need to be treated equally. In most of the countries, some of the employees are treated fairly, some are not treated fairly. This is a big challenge for the managers as far as work environment is concerned. Now let us see how the workplace is changing dramatically. Number one, agile working conditions. Employees are demanding agile working conditions. According to Cisco Connected Technology World Survey of about 2,800 college graduates and young professionals, the results they have drawn from this survey, 1/3 of the respondents would accept a lower paying job that had more flexibility with regard to device choice, social media access, and mobility than a higher paying job with less flexibility. So what is happening? The workplace is changing dramatically. People want to work if the organization is allowing to use more devices in the workplace, computer, supercomputer, laptop, mobile, so on and so forth. If they are allowing these devices, technological devices, people are ready to accept the job with low pay also. 2/3 of the respondents will ask about a company's social media policies during the interview. Nowadays, before joining the company, people are asking, they are giving their choice, what is the policy of the company as far as social media is concerned. People are becoming more and more conscious about the IT technology. 56% will refuse a job from a company that bans social media access, or they will circumvent around this policy. If you find an organization where they are saying don't use Facebook, don't use WhatsApp, don't use Google, don't use internet in the workplace, so on and so forth, people want to leave the company. 56% they will refuse a job from a company that bans social media access, or they will circumvent around this policy. Internet of Things, IoT. There is a dramatic change in the IoT, Internet of Things, IoT. We are moving into a new era in connectivity where we will see the proliferation of billions of connected devices in the world. I have got some statistics about Internet of Things. How much devices were used according to the year? During 2000, the world population was 6 billion and devices connected to the internet was about 500 million. Then from 2000 to 2011, the world population has increased from 6 billion to 7 billion. The devices connected to the internet increased from 500 million to 13 billion. Imagine, 26 times. Every person is having 4 to 5 devices at home nowadays. Now what is the future? Predicted 2020, 7.6 billion population will have 50 billion devices connected to the internet. This is the way how the workplace is changing around the globe. Another important survey that is recently conducted on COVID-19 and its impact on the changing workplace. This is the recent survey. I got it. 2 in 3 employees say maintaining employee morale is challenging. Maintaining employee morale is challenging in pandemic. Out of 3 employees, 2 employees they say it is, the motivation is lost somewhere else. Then 71% of employees say adapting to remote work has been a challenge. Remote work, some people will accept it, but 71% of the employees say adapting to remote work has been a big challenge. So for everybody, it is not a piece of cake working remotely. 83% of employers say they are adjusting their business practice in light of the pandemic. 83% of the employers. Imagine 83% of the employees. Many companies, they are adjusting their business practices in the light of pandemic. That is why many businesses have been closed. You are reading every day in the newspaper and in the media. Of these, 32 are offering additional paid leave for employees, while another 18% are considering it. So most of the companies, either they are providing longer leave with pay or without pay. This is the scenario with the COVID-19. Now let us discuss about diversity in the workplace. Here we are discussing what is diversity and what is the importance of diversity and what are the advantages of diversity and how we reap benefit with diversity. First, let us see what is diversity. Diversity in the workforce means including people of different genders, races, religions, nationalities, ethnic groups, age group, and physical abilities. We need to work with different age groups, different religion, different races, different nationalities, different ethnic groups, and sometimes with some physical disability people also. This is what we call the diversity in workforce. There are certain benefits to create diverse workforce. Now look here, in any colleges and universities, if you have a single nationality, the learning will not be as challenging as if you have multinationality faculties. So there are a lot of benefits for having diverse workforce. Employee population is increasingly diverse because the total employee population is diverse. You will find different nationalities in the same company. So that is why we need to have diverse workforce. Customer population is also increasing diverse. Customers also, you have different nationalities. When you have different nationalities in customers, to cater to the needs of the customers, you need to employ different nationalities. Now you might have observed in some of the flights, before they were announcing only in English language. Now you will find most of the international flights, you will find they are announcing in English, in Arabic, in French, in German, in Philippine, in Indian languages, so on and so forth. Because the passenger is diverse, that's why they have to employ diverse employees. They have to employ from different nationalities as such. Retaining top talent means recruiting individuals from all backgrounds. If a company wants to retain the talent, they have to retain the individuals from all backgrounds. Company need to have employees from all nationalities. That is beneficial to the company. Increasing diversity minimizes the risk of litigation. So in US and Latin America, if you have diversity in the what you call workforce, the people or the company will not have any court cases as such decision making. because you have all nationalities. They will give an excellent feedback in decision making. That is one of the best advantage of diversity. Then increasing globalization. Every company nowadays, they want to become a global company. If a company want to become global, they need to have employees from different nationalities. It presents stimulating challenges to both employees and supervisor. Working with a diverse workforce, it is a real challenge for the employees as well as supervisors. It creates an organization culture that is tolerant, hence leading to better business decisions. With diversity, people will learn to tolerate other genders, other nationalities, other age group. This is another advantage of diversity. Now let us discuss about what you call glass ceiling. Did you ever heard this word? What is glass ceiling? Let me see, because glass ceiling nowadays you will find in a newspaper, most of the government organizations, ministers, they are talking about how to promote women's and minorities. So let us see what is this glass ceiling. Glass ceiling is a level within the management hierarchy beyond which few women and minorities advance. Glass ceiling, it is an invisible barrier in the company, where very few women and minorities will advance. That is glass ceiling. That means what? You will find in every country, the ministers, they used to say, we need to promote women, we need to give more jobs to women, we need to give more space in the ministries. But in reality, women are not allowed to reach to the higher positions. That is what we call glass ceiling. It is an invisible barrier where very few women and minorities will advance. In talk, they used to say, we need to give more jobs to women and minorities. But in practice, they are not hiring women and minorities. That is what we call glass ceiling. This is an invisible barrier that prevents women and minorities from moving up in an organizational hierarchy. In every country, majoritarian people talk how to curb glass ceiling in media, but in practice, very little has been done on this issue. Now, the last objective of this lesson, we are discussing about entrepreneurships and management. Professional managers, this first we are discussing about the difference between professional managers and entrepreneurs. Professional managers are paid to perform functions within the company. There is a difference between professional managers and entrepreneurs. If you are employed in the company, maybe at level 1, at maybe top level managers, mid level managers, or supervisory managers, all the managers, they are called as professional managers. Senior managers, mid level managers, supervisory managers, all of them are called as professional managers. Whereas entrepreneurs are the people that launch and run their own business. Entrepreneurs may hire professional managers as their organization grows. Entrepreneurs, a lot of examples you can have. There are, famous entrepreneurs like Bill Gates was an entrepreneur. He started his business from the scratch. When his business was growing, he started hiring professional managers. He was in need of so many types of managers. So entrepreneurs may hire professional managers if the organization grows. Being an entrepreneur is more riskier than being a professional manager. There is difference between the risk and reward. Difference is there. If you are a professional manager, you don't have any risk. Just you have to work 5 days a week, and just you have to wait for your paycheck. The paycheck is coming to your account. If you are working as an entrepreneur, there is a risk of losing money or making money. Being an entrepreneur is more riskier than a professional manager. Entrepreneurs are more independent and possess less formal educations. If you see the history of many successful entrepreneurs, you will see they have less formal education, but they are highly successful in business. Now you understood what is the difference between professional managers and entrepreneurs. Professional managers are employed by the corporations and companies. They get regular pay, whereas entrepreneurs, these are the people who used to start their business from the scratch. Nowadays we used to have what we call the startups. Startups are the entrepreneurs. There are many types of entrepreneurs. Let us discuss what are those. Basically, I am discussing about 4 different types of entrepreneurial ownership: sole proprietors, partnership, then corporations and franchisees. These are the different types of entrepreneurial ownership. Number 1, sole proprietors. 80% of the business in any country that is owned by the sole proprietors. Sole proprietors are nothing but it is a one-man business. You know the grocery shops, or you can say the shops near the petrol stations, all these workshops, all these restaurants, all these belongs to the one-man business. Sole proprietorship business, that is run by a business and that is handled or managed by a single person. This is one type of entrepreneurial ownership. Or you can have another type of ownership in the business, entrepreneurship business, that is partnerships. Partnerships are usually made when large investments are needed. Maybe there are 2 people, one of the person he want to contribute capital funding, and there is another guy, he is not having funding but he is having a very great idea in his mind. These 2 people together, they can start an entrepreneurship business, that is a partnership business. One or more partners can provide money while the other can run the business, or sometimes 2 or more people might also run the business. You can have partnership business with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, depending on the business. That is another type of entrepreneurial ownership. Then corporations, in corporates, you can start private companies. First, people used to start private companies as an entrepreneurship ownership. It involves people forming a corporation to avoid being held personally liable for financial losses, because these companies, limited liability companies, or maybe what you call giant stock companies, they have limited liabilities. Some people, they start entrepreneurship ownership with companies, by starting companies. Then 4th type of entrepreneurial ownership, franchise business. You can have your own franchise. If you are creating your own franchise, like for example, the owner of Al Bayt is the competitor of what you call KFC, right, in Saudi Arabia. He is a franchisor. He can appoint hundreds of franchisees. So franchisees can also be owned by some entrepreneurs. These are the different type of entrepreneurial ownership. Thus, the difference between intrapreneurships and entrepreneurship. The spelling difference is there. Intrapreneurship, that starts with I, then entrepreneurship, that starts with E. So to encourage entrepreneurships within the organization, we call it as intrapreneurships. For example, Microsoft is a company. Within the Microsoft, the management is what you call motivating their employees to become entrepreneurs. Google is a corporation, it is a company. Within the Google, the management is encouraging the programmers to develop, to think like entrepreneurs. We call this practice, this philosophy as intrapreneurship. So most of the companies nowadays, they are following this philosophy, what we call it as an intrapreneurship. Within the organization, encouraging the people to think like entrepreneurs. We call it as intrapreneurships. Here in Saudi Arabia, for example, in Aramco or maybe in Sabic, if the top managers are encouraging its employees to create something new at the company's cost, we call it as intrapreneurships. To encourage intrapreneurships, the company need to follow three important things, or they have to focus on three important things. If a company want to encourage people to think like entrepreneurs, they have to focus on three important things. Let us discuss what is this. To encourage entrepreneurships within the organization is called as intrapreneurship. Many medium and large organizations, they must follow three important areas. They have to follow three important things. Number one, they have to develop a system that supports and encourage people to champion their new ideas or product. They have to develop a system that will support and encourage people to champion their new idea and products. Number two, the management, top management, they should be ready to accept failure and they should encourage the employees to learn from the mistakes. Number three, they should encourage managers to become innovative and take risk. That's the end of this chapter. Good luck.